The real deals are on the air now. And now, live from the Swords of St. Michael Studios, it's The Real Deals, Kenneth at Barrow's Deal. Hey folks, welcome to the show. We are here, Ask a Demonologist, live tonight. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, follow.
All that good
however
stuff.
It may be on the tube or
Yes.
whatever pipeline you're watching. We're on Dark Waters Radio, also simulcasted tonight.
I know, that's so exciting.
As well, to
Thank
get out to
you,
the
Dark
mainstream.
Waters, for having us. That's so nice of them.
And this is going to be a live chat thing where basically you ask your questions, you post them, and we'll try to answer them all. And we'll swing over to the chat window in just a minute so people will see you.
You know, we had so many new people in tonight. Hey, Athena and Carolyn. Oh my gosh, we've got Mary, Leon, Nikki. I can't believe it's like, it's so nice to see everybody, and it's wonderful. We actually started a little bit early tonight. We usually start about 5 minutes after to give everybody a chance to get in because it is Sunday night, and now that everybody has a 4-day weekend, you know, people may be gone. Like Deb decided to like go out on assignment tonight, so Deb's not going to be joining us, which is a bummer because there's so many questions I wanted her to help with tonight. But we look forward to taking your questions down as fast as possible. And Colin, I did get your question in, and I did write a few. Hi, Zulma. Hi. So, you know, just keep them coming and be patient. If I don't get to it or Ken doesn't get to it, please just pop it in there again so we can get to it, okay? Once again, like you said, please give us a thumbs up. If you have to log out to give us a thumbs up, don't forget to do it at the end of the show. Click the little bell. That way you get a notification when we go live. Okay. Follow us, ask questions. We're here to help you. So,
St. Mickey time.
St. Michael time.
All right, let's do it. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us all in battle. Be our protection against the malice and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him. And we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the divine powers of God, cast into hell Satan and all the other evil spirits who roams the world seeking to ruin the souls. Amen. Most Sacred Heart of Jesus, have mercy on us. All righty. Back on this, I think we can just go ahead and pop right in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Okay, and you know I'm Irish, you little Scot boy. Colin has a question from Ireland, and I want to get to him in case he's got to get to bed, okay?
Okay. Yeah, I forgot what the timeline is over there. I know.
Well, the timeline is, I think, right, Colin, you guys are like about 8-9 hours ahead of us. So
I know France is 9.
It's got to be like mid-morning right now, probably about maybe 3 or 4 o'clock. You're just like in the middle of the night. So anyway, Colin McMullan has a question that, and I'm going to assume you're talking about Catholic Mass, Colin, all right, unless you say otherwise. His question is while at Mass, during the consecration, okay, of the host, which is Jesus Christ, the Eucharist, during the consecrations, while we're offering prayers, what are your thoughts, Ken, on offering prayers for others who might be afflicted? Now, the affliction could be, you know, I'm assuming since we're talking demonology, it could be they're demonically afflicted, maybe they're vexed, maybe they're having some issues. So you've just received our Lord, body, and soul. What are your thoughts about praying for other people at that specific time?
Well, just remember that part of the Mass. I try to focus on what's going on as much as I can, but that part where they do this in memory of me, and we say, my Lord, have mercy on me a sinner, have mercy on us all. I do it 3 times. Have mercy on me a sinner, have mercy on me a sinner, have mercy on us all. That's the only prayer I offer during that. I don't want to take away that moment. So during communion, it would be the time that I do it inside the Mass, because once the communion rite starts, I'm trying to participate. I'm trying to focus on what's going on, like you do when you're in the Blessed Sacrament, when you focus on the true presence. I guess that's, I don't know, anything to add to that, Farrah?
You know, I just want to say this, all right? Now, coming from our tradition of, 2,000 years, now, of course, people are going to argue and say, well, Christianity hasn't been around 2,000 years, because it took them 200 years just to write the Bible and say, okay, this and this and this and this. So let me just put, let me put 1,800 years, okay, if that's a little bit more palatable. What we have is we have a tradition of when we are spiritually looking for our spiritual food of God, which is in the Eucharist. Okay, people say, oh, it's just a wafer. It's a spiritual communion. And Catholics call it a transubstantiation. How we explain that is that this might look like just a little old regular piece of paper to you. When the person whose hands have been specifically blessed to call upon the great grace and blessing of the authority of the chair of Peter or the seat of these 12 apostles that sat with Jesus, okay? That authority is called from heaven. It transforms this paper into something magnificent that allows us to receive spiritual food, okay? So if that little explanation, I hope that does you. And, if you're Protestant or you're not Catholic or Christian, that's okay too, right? We're just explaining, and we love you all. What I'm trying to say in answer to this question is that we have to think about our prayer and our meditation time. If we have just received our spiritual nourishment, our spiritual food, if we have just received Christ, an attitude of gratitude is what we have been raised to believe, that this is our mindset, is that, we thank God for spending time with us, for being with us, for coming and living in us, and to pray intercession prayers at that time for somebody that may be vexed, that may be having difficulties, that may be going through a series of exorcisms in a way that almost detracts from the joy that you're receiving. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying that maybe wait a few minutes, okay? Because you always have that time that you've got the stillness, whether there's a band playing in the background or it's the choir singing from the secondhand loft if you're a trad. You've got that time, 3, 5, 7 minutes, whatever. And then, of course, you got another 3 minutes while the altar cloth is being cleared and every trace is being cleaned up. You've got that time. Then there's a few minutes that the priest or presbyter, the bishop, whoever's presiding over Mass, is going to be quiet. That is the perfect time. Because at that time, usually the priest, presbyter, bishop is offering up prayers for you, the faithful, for you that have just received the body and blood. He's praying for you. So should you decide to pray for somebody at that time that they're depressed, suicidal, they're going through exorcism, and you're like, oh, God, this person needs you so bad. Can you please go to their side? Lord, can you take the sacrifice? Because never forget, the Mass is a sacrifice. You're not there to get your good jollies on. You're there to sacrifice your time, your life, your love for God, okay? And that sacrifice is never wasted.
Amen.
So at that time, that's a perfect time to say, Lord, you know what? This person can't do it. And everything I've received, I really, really, really would wish that this person has the grace and mercy to be healed. That, in my opinion, is the perfect time. Sorry to be so long-winded, but I love God. And I love prayer time. So it's wonderful, Colin, that, and that's just it. We're fighting Irish. We'll fight for anybody. If we see somebody on the road that's in pain, we'll be like, oh, gosh, I better pray for him. I mean, to this day, I see an ambulance or somebody, and I'm like, come on, kids, we got to pray for that person. We never know what's going on. There's never a bad time to pray for somebody, ever.
Yeah. Even if you're driving, or at a restaurant or anything, you think of them, and they passed away especially. Should say a prayer.
Exactly.
To get a few early ones out that were basically came in before the show. We have our little
and we got, hey, Aaron's in, Monkey Man, Jerome. Hey, good to see you guys. I love this. T-Meister. Is that like T-Rex? Oh, that's a good one. Of course, T-Meister, there's probably a few people here that have had confrontations directly with a demon. So
Mary still asked the question, can demons read minds? And I guess the short answer to that, we have a video on that too.
I know you've done a video, but you know what? For those people that have not heard it, can we just get like the 5-minute little dissertation about that?
Not even that, yeah.
It's good for people to know.
Yeah, it's a good question. This is one I asked when I was able to talk to Exorcist early 2000 for the first time to compare notes. Somebody who actually has been in the field a while, people who I can confer with. And things that I already knew or believed, for example. But anyway, Can demons read your mind? They cannot extract thought. They can only do it when you are oppressed to some degree. They can make you think they are, because they're inserting thoughts so carefully and cleverly into your mind. You can't tell your own thoughts from there, especially when you move into possession. Some people still believe that when you become possessed, that they can actually link in and pull the thoughts out of your mind. I still think it's not true. I don't think it's in God's permissible will. I don't even think the angels can do it on that sort of thing, but they can guess. They can, because they have the wisdom of the ages. They can look at your aura, and they can actually see if you're planning something malicious. Padre Pio saw 7 auras on people, and one of them you can tell what their physical health was. You can tell their unconfessed sins, but it's not out of the ordinary. But they do so well at this that it fools anybody, even people who aren't even oppressed to some degree. But I guess the last thing to say about that would be that when they do this, they might, besides give the illusion of reading your mind, they work on you to make you feel that they have all this control.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah, and
well, and that's just it. It's so easily, kids. Demons have access to our imagination and things that we've already seen. All right, these immortal creatures have watched you since you popped out of mom. So every Playboy magazine you snuck and read, every time you stole an apple from your neighbor and they weren't looking, they've been watching. And they are so smart that they can sum up, by just watching what you're doing, they can kind of sum up what you're doing, and they can plant suggestions in your mind constantly, like bam, 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 bam. And you think, oh my gosh, they're reading my mind. They're not. They're just smart Alex, and they're just trying to trip you up. So tell your guardian angel, say, hey, get them out of here. Get them out of here. And as Pio would say, you foul, evil spirit, I will have none of your words. Ask the Blessed Mother for some help. She'll kick them out. We've got so many wonderful people. We've got people from Japan. We've got people from Windsor. And it's just
we might have to go a little faster, but I think we're elaborating. I can go into my Ben Shapiro mode or something a little bit there. This Zuma asked the question. She says, I went to the doors on the Jubilee Year of Mercy. When I die, will I still go to purgatory, or is my expiation met?
That's a good one.
I missed the pronunciation on that one. But I think that the way to look at this is that at that moment, that would be true to some degree, but people get this salvation thing kind of mixed up. Salvation doesn't mean you go straight to heaven. It means you've been saved from hell. So you can be on your way to salvation in purgatory. You know, you're eligible for salvation in purgatory. That's something that, you know, when the people get into that no salvation outside the church, even they get mixed up on quoting one little line and not giving a long explanation.
Oh, definitely.
But if she died at that moment for some reason, I mean, it's supposed to be true. Promise of the promise. I guess that's kind of a rare thing. That's a good way to prep yourself. But what kind of thoughts or sins might you commit, or that you're still holding on to? That would mean that you would go to heaven even if you had some issue where you don't understand something about Jesus, and you're still going to have to go to the school of purgatory, where you're not into flame and fire and purge, all that sort of thing. It's the other levels that we also don't really hear much about. We got another book from Purgatory from the church library, and I don't really find anything in there either. The saints keep talking about how many times people go there and they suffer and blah, 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 but it doesn't explain the ghost being here for the most part until you get into some other writings, which are in the church too, that explains the existence of ghosts and why Padre Pio had a monk in there that was in his chapel.
Yes,
and the monk was like, he didn't genuflect before the Blessed Sacrament.
No.
He wasn't burning in purgatory, a temporary hell.
No, he wasn't.
So those are different kind of things. I hope I didn't go off topic on that.
That's quite all right, because we've got other questions too.
Yes.
So keep going, sweetie.
Okay. Nikki was asking right before the show also, and then we'll have to take them briefly.
We need to get a few questions, so you guys just keep them coming. Be patient with us. We wrote them down as we could.
Some. Yeah, and she said, can one remove a love binding spell? And that would just, due to breaking curses spells, you know, you can focus on putting the word love spell or whatever in there, I suppose, but it's curse, and she's using, she says she's working with Mother Mary, saying the rosary and a petition for intercession on this. That's good. You can do a rosary novena, but you have to specifically address it in additional ways, and that would be if the person had done it, it's different than if they received it, so I didn't get that information. Because if they received it, it'd be easier to get rid of them if you put it on somebody. But obviously, if she knows about the rosary, she probably had not. You know what I mean? People make mistakes, that sort of thing. But
so true.
Do the breaking curses prayers, specifically where they mention that. If you're a participant in a love spell being put on somebody, you have to do the breaking occult renouncing occult practices prayers on swordsofstmichael.org. And they'll see right below the breaking curses prayer, do prayer 1 and prayer 2 for about 9 days, and you should notice something let up by then. And make sure that whoever the person is who is affected is in the state of grace. By the end, make a promise that they're going to get in the state of grace. The problem is couples shack up so easy. It's hard to tell, but if you're not with a person, you can get yourself clear. She said there's something about Archangel Michael used to remove. I don't know about that one. I'm not familiar with that one. So that's pretty much conclusive on that. I would stick with the breaking curses prayers and get in touch with us and let us know if you need to do more. But a rosary novena is very powerful. That would be a good thing to tone it.
You know, we do need to probably get that out there. We have a public ministry phone number that anyone can contact us, and I'm going to type that in right now in case you need it. It is 573-990-1333. Why do we put it out there? Well, we want to make sure that there is nothing wrong with asking for help. And if we don't know, we're going to ask. We're going to say, you know what, I'm not really sure about that, but I'm going to get you the answer you need. We don't hesitate to say we're not sure about something. Or you know what, maybe we cannot take care of that, but we're going to help you find somebody that can. So if you ever need one-on-one spiritual stuff, don't hesitate. We do have a really good question from the chat room that's really interesting. And as a matter of fact, if you guys are not familiar with, if you are, and it's okay because there's lots of different, there's some wonderful pastors out there, Dr. Neil Anderson, Dr. Rohr, and this question actually speaks to a great part of ancient history. And he says, this is a question, are auras Catholic? Now, the aura as is understood by a lot of the New Age practitioners of, ooh, I want to read your aura, baby.
It's a little too mainstream
Neopagan. It's basically kind of become just like one of those buzzwords like, hey, baby, what's your astrology sign? That kind of thing.
That's true.
You know, it has, because it's like, oh, my aura is purple, or oh, my aura is red.
Like a mood ring.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I'm wearing my mood ring. Since you can't read my aura, here's my mood ring. So, you know, it's almost become kind of silly. And it doesn't exactly address where the idea and the concept. You see, today's art does not adequately describe, you know, the saints and a lot of the people that we have loved in our history. Whether your history is, you know, Martin Luther, or it's Muslim, or it's Jewish, a lot of the ancients were pictured with these beautiful bright lights, and they were painted with rays coming off of them. And that was to show the level of holiness and beauty of their souls. And that indeed is the aura. This is scientific fact. You are a walking battery. You have within you the spark of life that anybody knows. If you've trucked over a freshly vacuumed carpet, bing! And you get zapped. Hello, you're electromagnetic. That doesn't mean you're as holy as Abraham, but that means you got the aura. Okay, you're not dead yet. So, if somebody says, "Hey, is the aura, is that Catholic?" In the term that is used in the mainstream,
it's not mainstream Catholic. Yeah.
No, it is not mainstream Catholic. The aura is definitely the aura that describes the beauty, the holiness, and the inner purity of someone that specifically looks away from the world, leaves all the worries of the world and the desires and the lust of the flesh, and just says, you know what, I'm going to love my neighbor, and I'm going to do everything I can to serve anyone I can whenever God tells me. That's going to be a person that has a beautiful aura. That is going to be a person that you don't even know, but you just walk up to this person and you just feel like you're at home. You just feel like this person is just, they're so good and they're so rare. So yes, I would say
it happens on the opposite side too.
Oh, it really,
and it's
really
sad.
does.
Some people oppressed, people actually saw,
Yes.
some people could actually see, in rare cases, of course, that this oppressed girl, for example, in school, she's losing friends, and one girl says she can see something on her, like a blackness that surrounded her silhouette.
Yes.
So the devils, have a reaction too. It's black, and then of course when someone, and I think that's what the depictions are, not just a representation. I think the accounts were.
Yes.
Jesus probably had a glow about him, as
I'm
some
sure
of the
he
apostles or
did.
something, but especially Jesus. That probably bothered him even more. The Pharisees, like one of our
I
kids
know.
said today, something about that. Yeah, they must have been really jealous. I mean, you mean the Pharisees? They said.
Yes.
And he says, yeah, and they were. They were so jealous. They're good, man. We could not drive out demons, and here's Jesus doing it, no problem. And all their prayers of deprecation didn't work to God, begging and sacrificing,
I know, right?
Sacrificing all their cattle, and the girls still not freed, for example. Mm-hmm. I have an empty list, so we're going to take questions
Hold
that
on,
you can
I got a
dig
great
up.
question. Tony Copianco's in chat. I'll tell you guys what.
Hey, Tony.
I have to brag about knowing Tony C. He has got this fabulous blog right now. You guys, I'm a plain speak artist. I speak plainly. Tony C is like up there with like who's that guy I absolutely love to read that I have all the theologia.
Quite?
Yeah, Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tony Copianco has got this great new blog, and it's mind-blowing. We'll talk about that later. Tony, pop in a link to your blog because it's fabulous. If people really want to get like in-depth Catholicism, oh my gosh, mind-blowing stuff.
Philosophy.
Yes, philosophy, what's going on with the Catholic Church. Tony C. just started a new email, new blog, and it's so thorough. And even if you're not Catholic, even if you're just curious about what's going on, check out Tony C.'s blog. The question that T. Meister has is a really good one, because what we're talking about here is it's something that is so acceptable in our culture, Kenny. So I'm going to let you start, and I'm going to go ahead and finish it. The question here is, my dad's into New Age, and he attends Reiki sessions, and he's done astrology charts and other similar activities. Do you think that maybe he's in danger of being possessed?
I think on a lot of that stuff, especially when there's physical contact and there's actual interaction with spirits, which includes the charismatic movement, and we'll talk about that another time, that when you're doing anything of physical nature or in word or it's beyond thought, you're taking something to another level. And we kind of expect that even things with like Reiki and all that stuff like that it's kind of mimicking like some sort of healing, like with the apostles laying hands on to heal the physical. And so, but it's not saying Jesus' name. In Jesus' name, they will heal the sick.
Very true.
They'll cast demons out. They'll say lay hands on the sick and so forth. But they don't say never lay hands on the demonically possessed. It doesn't mean healing the sick. You don't heal, whoever you are. And don't let anybody but a priest touch the possessed. And don't touch them yourself. But, I think that all of these things are neo-pagan in their origins, and they do get into that mysticism.
Yes.
And Reiki is another thing that comes from the Hindu faith, right? Like like yoga, the
well,
Kundalini spirit.
I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So,
I guess I say avoid all of that stuff because superstition. We had somebody we were speaking with the other day. I'm not going to say when and where. It might reveal too much about the person.
Oh, yes.
But they mentioned something about doing the thing where you put Joseph upside down on. You get a statue of Joseph, Saint Joseph, from the Holy Family, and you put him upside down and bury him in the ground. And I said that's superstition. You can't follow that like a pagan. And I said the red flag should be that you put Joseph upside down in the ground. I mean, he's Saint Joseph, okay? He is an important figure, even though he's kind of like laying in the background. He's not really historical even as much as St. Paul is. But what we got to remember is what the act is in itself. It's like a desecration in itself. And burying him, I know he died and went to heaven and everything like that, but why would we respect Jesus' foster father?
Isn't that the truth?
Any more than don't respect Mary. Don't disrespect. Did I just say don't respect?
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, so I guess that's about what I got to say about that. I'm sure you can add more because
I'm going to here.
You know some people in the past.
Well, and that's just it. He's talking about possession. Okay, first off, before I go into this, the detail here, I got to answer Nikki's question. She's looking for the site that has the Breaking Curses prayers. We have a lot of beautiful prayers that we use for binding, for deliverance, and they're going to be found. Spell everything out. www.sword, SORD. Swords of Saint, SAINT, Michael.org. Go to the Haunting Help, click down among the prayers, and it's going to have a variety of different ones. We don't have the ones for the Freemasons or that kind of stuff. You might have to PM us on that one, and I can take some pictures and send them to you because I've got those prayers. But we've got just about every kind of Breaking Curses prayers, and those need to be said minimum 3 days, 9 days, 30 days, 90 days. And prayers are most powerful like anything else. You guys, we don't start a diet and just like diet for a day and go, oh yeah, I did my diet. No. Diets take, when we change our lifestyles, they take 21 days. So just think about it this way. If you're trying to break a curse, if you're trying to break a bad habit that exists in your household, you need to do it for at least 3 weeks. Just saying, okay, kids? So now back to this question about, he's practicing Reiki and he's doing astrology charts. Is he in danger of being possessed? All right, now since...
Oh, I didn't answer that one directly.
Yeah, we need to
I'm
answer
sorry.
that. Because
you finish it. Go ahead.
That is really... There's so many people that indulge in this kind of stuff, and it's just really scary because we don't really understand it. Now, Reiki seems to be a very harmless act because what you're doing is you're just calling on universal energy to just heal somebody. Okay, how do you know where this universal energy is coming from, people? How do you know who's giving it to you? How do you know that the energy you're channeling is from God?
That's true.
You don't know. You don't know. There is no Saint Michael. There is no Padre Pio coming out of the clouds and saying, yes, have my sword of energy. This is yours. No, it's not happening. So what are we relying on? And what does Jesus say? We never answer a fool according to his own wisdom. And at that moment, if I'm going to be relying on universal energy, I would be that fool answering my own wisdom going, I know I can do this. Now, I'm not making fun of people that lay hands on people and want to heal people in Jesus' name. I'm not doing that, so please don't take this the wrong way. What I am saying, though, however, is Reiki walks the line between the adoration of the one true living God to who's God? I do it my way, I do it the highway, and I get it done because I'm a Reiki girl or I'm a Reiki boy.
A lot of pride in it.
Now, is this going to cause possession? When we look at the instances and the cases that we have of people that either claim possession or the calls that we get with people that are struggling with vexation and the possibility they could be on their way to possession, it's kind of like we look at Reiki and astrology and anything else that takes you away from God, kind of like that little gateway drug of pot. And I use pot as an instance because, sadly, I know a lot of people that are smoking a lot of pot right now that, hey, I'm sorry to admit, but, I did try it when I was in high school. I played around with it. The stuff we had in high school, and I'm talking 30 years ago, kids, that was pretty mild stuff compared to the adulterated stuff they have today. So, is the Reiki we're doing now, is that the same Reiki that was going on 30 years ago? I don't know. But I do know this much. I know that what it does, according to Thomas Aquinas, when you take justice and you take right adoration of God away from God, and you put it on something else such as myself, what I can do on my own, basically you're telling the demons that are hanging around you that, you know what, this person thinks that they know more than God. Let's have some fun. So what does that do? As we know, if you're familiar with Thomas Aquinas' teaching on demons, they are not They are not in our finite world. They're in infinity out here, okay? They have no end. They have no beginning. What they do have is they have an obligation that when they choose to come and spoil our lives, spoil this time, they're here, and our children have them, our great-grandchildren have them, and they're here until it's over. That's it. So, will this lead to possession? Probably not. Will it lead to vexation, sadness, depression, suicide, bipolar? Maybe. I don't know.
Depends on what else they do with it.
It depends on, you know, your father's obviously searching for an answer. And that's the problem with most occult practices such as astrology because, okay, Jesus told us to look at the sky for signs and wonders, not for the answer of, who am I going to sleep with? Who am I going to marry? How long am I going to live? Okay? And that's what astrology seeks to do. It seeks to give you the definitive prophetic answers. It can't do that. It cannot do that, okay? So when we look at people that look like, oh my gosh, I've got to go see a psychic, I've got to go see an astrologer, does that mean they're bad people? No. No, they're searching for something. Their soul is empty.
They can be bad
They
for
need
you.
help.
Yeah,
Pray with
psychics
them.
won't do it anymore.
Go
Reiki
to your father's
direct.
house. If you know he's going to a Reiki group, say, hey, Dad, I haven't had ice cream with you since I was 12. Let's go have some ice cream. Let me tell you, it works on a 2-year-old. It works on a 12-year-old. It used to work on my 27-year-old. Distraction is a good thing. Oh, if you know your dad's going to be like going and hanging out with a bunch of astrologers, say, oh my gosh, Dad, you wouldn't believe it. I got tickets to like the World Series. Distraction. Why? Because you love him. Why? Because you may be the only person that stands between him and a series of great sadness that the demons play on and destroy his life. So never, never, never lose an opportunity to love that person that you know is in darkness and playing with darkness, okay? Sorry I went on about that.
Something last to add, we had a case in New York, a gal who became possessed, step in possession. She would come in at work and wake up in the bathroom and call us crying and scared.
Oh, wasn't that sad?
And she did Reiki, and she did these other things that she thought was a service for people. And she had kind of a didn't say Christian Neopagans. There's a lot of them out there that mix this stuff, tarot cards and whatever. But she got possessed. We're not exactly sure all the details, but we knew what to do to solve it, and that was really the important part. She did get an exorcism by the Roman Catholic Church, and it was successful, and she was only 23. But that was one of the things she was doing was Reiki. But so that's saying that with other things and intentions and all of that stuff plays a part. So there are a lot of variables. But real quick, I want to mention thank you for your donation to Super Chat to Nikki and Mary. And,
oh, wow.
We appreciate that.
The Father and Son, Holy Spirit.
We give away free St. Benedict medals to the needy and spiritually needy and other things as well, and put our own postage on there, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, you know what, I'm totally new to this, and I had no clue. Thank you so much, Mary, and thank you for the donation. We don't solicit donations. Do you know why? God provides all our needs. And every, you know, our Etsy page, and, you know, Ken does some stuff on Swords of St. Michael. We send medals all over to France, Russia, India. As a matter of fact, we got another question I got to answer about India, Mexico. We send things overseas, and sometimes these come back because you know what? People move, and we're like, I just paid all this money to send all this stuff. We send prayers. We send brochures. We send scapulars. We send medals. We send, I mean, we go on Skype and we pray with people. We don't do online deliverance, okay? We give people more. We can't give them a fish. What we give them is every single tool so that they can eat that fish, and they can eat it with grace.
They can catch it with a fishing rod.
Thank you so much.
We have to go back in our chat and scroll a little bit, but I didn't catch any. I should have done that during that time, but I'm not.
Wow, thank you so much.
Used to grabbing questions. Usually Deb is in there.
I know, Deb. We miss you, Deb. Hey, T. Nelmas,
so
thank
feel
you
free to
so much for
repost
joining
the question if we missed it, but we know we got some other ones in there, and
we got a really good question. Then I'm going to ask the other question that I wrote down earlier about. Because it's something to do with Hindi and auras. We've got a really good question from Roy Lyons. Thank you for joining us, Roy. The question here is, Ken, and this is a serious one, and Roy, I want you to know right now, as a mother that is praying for a 27-year-old son, I'm going to add you to my midnight Auxilium Christianorum prayers. This is a tough one. His question is there anything I can do to protect my daughter who has renounced Catholicism and says she does not believe in God? And she steers clear of anything religious.
Well, how old is she?
He says, I'm thinking no.
If she's older, she might be getting kind of in those stubborn years. She'll be harder to crack than when she's younger.
Oh my gosh. We just got another donation from Dark Waters.
This is our administrator for the radio network, which we just joined.
Wow.
A wonderful
I'm gonna
person.
cry, you guys. This is like our first donations. This is really wild. Thank you. You guys are so sweet and so wonderful. Thank you.
We are doing our first live show simulcast tonight on that network.
Yeah, on Dark Waters. They are so sweet.
And we're going to get some more things up so we can help in return and to promote them, to build them up. And they're looking for additional shows to put on at different time slots. So if you have one on deck, submit your demo.
We need to talk about this guy's daughter, because this is serious, okay?
Now,
I'm going to give you 3 things you're going to have to do, because I'm going to tell you what I do for mine. Go ahead, Ken.
Okay, I'll start with some things because this one has a lot of ones. So I would do Chapel of Divine Mercy first and foremost, because you're actually offering atonement. This is the way we do. Whenever you do an exorcism or you're assisting in a deliverance to some degree, you're offering yourself up, even if it's physical presence and through your prayers. But one of the reasons why the priest should do a 3-day fast, for example, is not because he needs to get his spirit kindled up so he can be successful, and not just because he's doing it for protection, but because you got to have a ransom to offer. If you go and catch Guido beating up some guy that owes him money, and then you intervene either one way, kung fu, or you pay him off a little bit, one of the two. So what do you have to offer? And that's pretty much the way it works is in this kind of thing, that sometimes when we have a relative who strays off, you can offer atonement that way, and other prayers as well. But there's some things, green scapular, if you can get it sewed in her pillow, and the miraculous medal, the oval medal with the Blessed Mother on it. Saint Benedict medal for protection, and you can put it in her car, hide it in her car.
Yes.
Under their driver's seat might be a good place. Vera, go ahead and add some things. I'm sure you got your mind reeling on this.
This sweet man who loves his daughter so much.
Thank you, Roy Lyons.
Just donated money to us. Gosh, you guys just, I'm speechless. I'm really speechless. I'm like, wow. I really feel like, we're trying to do the best we can to get people free and deliver people from their own problems. It doesn't matter. Oh, T. Meister, you're so sweet.
Oh, thank you,
We
T.
got
Meister.
another donation. Your daughter, it doesn't matter if she's 16, if she's 15, if she's 25, or she's 35. Guess what? Nobody on this earth, no priest, no bishop, no one has more legal right than you, her father, not even her mother. And you take that to your prayers tonight, and you say, Lord God, of all things that you have given me the power to bind anything that is of the air and of the earth. And you know what? If you send us a message, I'm going to send you this exact prayer. You bind everything away from her. And as my favorite priest, Father Ripperger, says, you bind everything away, every harmful friendship, every harmful thought, every invitational thought, and you send it to the foot of the cross, and you ask your guardian angel, who you have complete control of, you ask your guardian angel to go to this young girl, and you tell your guardian angel, you have an assignment. You're there to make my daughter miserable and drag her back to the foot of the cross. And don't stop. I have done 54-day novenas for I can't even tell you how many years, to speak to a child that hadn't spoken to me in 15 years.
Oh, she's only 14.
Guess what?
Wow.
Guess what? He called. I got to speak to him for a year just to start a bunch of 54-day novenas. We never stop praying for our child. If this little girl is 14, this tells me 2 things. A, she has influences that she wants to mimic. B, this tells me that there's a lot of problems with mommy. there's a lot of problems with mommy. And since you, unless you are still married to her mother, if you are married to her mother, I would suggest a separate novena for the mother too. Because at 14, she's sexual, she's trying things, and she's pushing her boundaries. And you as a father, if she lives in your house, you have every right to say, hey, you know what? We're going to church. I don't care you want to stay home. Do you want your phone? I suggest you go. Oh, you want to go out and play with your friends? Well, I suggest you go to church with me. You know why? Because you have to establish the fact that there is an authority. And if she doesn't want to do it, well, geez, I guess you're not getting that new outfit this weekend, are you? Everything in life is a give and take. And when we stop giving everything to our children and they learn that they have to earn it, we understand that, you know what, they have to behave in a manner that respects us and respects God first. And this is one of the hardest things to do with our kids. It hurts us more than it does them. But I agree with Ken. She's 14. Okay? You need to send us a PM so we can get you some St. Benedict medals for under her bed. You can put one over her doorway. If you don't have exorcised holy water, exorcised salt, you need to put that in her room. Matter of fact, I would sprinkle some exorcised oil right in her food and smile while she eats it. I would insist
Treat
that
like
she
an
does.
impression.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't need to be direct intervention.
If she says she doesn't believe in God, this is the biggest problem. I'm sorry, folks. We're facing a big problem in all churches right now. All churches are really, really tough. We are seeing more between 40 and 70% of youth between 13 and 17 leave their faith and don't come back. They don't come back. Yeah, he's been divorced for 4 years. Oh, Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy. So, you've got a beautiful daughter. What is she seeing there? You know, is she seeing sin? Is she seeing lust? Is she seeing birth control? Is she seeing...
Sounds like all of it.
A disrespect of men? I think that, sadly, because our children are given so much and they're given so many opportunities, you may need to keep the door to conversation. Okay, we're professed religious Franciscan, and the most important thing that you can do is create dialogue with her. Because she is not living in her house, she doesn't have to do anything you want. She doesn't have to go to church. She doesn't have to do anything. So how do you get her to love God again? I would pray and not stop praying those 54-day novenas.
Yeah,
I would literally sew a St. Benedict medal in her suitcase that she comes over with.
I have a relic of Saint Gemma in here.
Yes.
Gemma. Saint Gemma. Saint Gemma, there's a story in there if you can find it online, and she prayed for a 33rd degree Freemason, basically a fully indoctrinated Satanist, and I don't care who argues with that. It's not true. They would argue against that. It is a satanic organization. Now, if you get her to say the three Hail Marys prayer, that's great, but we're talking about doing some external stuff, and that's what she's been talking about, Farrah, the whole time. But what if you convert prayers that she would otherwise say for herself?
Yes.
And then you put her name in there and change the words around. We've done that before when we had to do prayers over somebody last minute for oppression and so forth. Let me give you an example. The end of the three Hail Marys prayer, at the end of each time they say the Hail Mary, and then they end with, "Oh, Mary, my mother, please preserve me from mortal sin this day." You can turn that around and say, "Oh, Mary, my mother, please preserve," and put her name there, "from mortal sin this day." Say that twice, because mortal sin seems to be the key, especially at that age. She could be promiscuous. And the other one is, "Oh, Mary, let's see, what is it? By your pure and immaculate conception, oh, Mary, make her body pure and her soul holy," where otherwise you would say your, so that one works too. You can do that with other prayers. Go ahead, Farrah. Ice the cake.
No, I want you to understand that the battle's already been won. Your daughter's soul, if she has been baptized, and if she has been raised in the faith, she has a good chance of when she goes goodbye that God's going to say, "Hey, do you want me or do you want the dark?" And she'll say, "Oh, God, I love you." You've got a good chance, but you don't want to take that chance if she could choose something else. So if you have time for coffee in the morning, you have time to do a 1 to 2 minute prayer and say, "You know what, God? I'm going to give up sugar in my coffee," or I'm going to give up, I'm going to give up a phone call because I've got to pray for my child, and I have got to pray this prayer every single day. And then
Storm
when she
heaven
comes
and be
back,
patient.
that's right, I would contact, there's a bunch of old ladies in every single church. I swear, every church has got this little group of biddies that would love to pray for you.
Yeah.
You know what? Go get them a box of donuts and say, hey, listen, I need some prayers for my kid, and I need them nonstop. Serious. She's 14.
That's so true. Every church,
She's a little baby.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, they're putting lipsticks on kindergartners. 14-year-olds are supposed to be sexually active, be cisgendered. They're supposed to be trying out every freaking gender. Yeah. Turn the TV off in your house and don't turn it back on. I don't care if she gets to look at it at mommy's house.
What about social media?
Yep. Lock the phone. Check the phone at the door. Say, you know what? This is our time together. We're going to just sit here and stare at each other, okay? Whatever it is, the world is pulling her into a place where A, she doesn't like herself. She doesn't feel comfortable in her own skin. She feels like she's not good enough. And you don't want her to feel like she has no option but suicide, that nobody loves her.
Ooh, that's
so
bad. Yeah.
And that's sadly the hardest thing, that kids at 14 are bullied. They're isolated, and this is very demonic in our society. So be very, very, very careful, very loving, very open, but very firm. Listen, I'd really like it if you would do this with me, because you were everything to me when you were born, and hopefully maybe someday you'll see that. Would you please do this? Keep your doors open, keep your prayers on, and don't stop. I don't care if it takes 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 54-day novenas. It may be till she's 25, till she comes back to the church. But I guarantee you, your storming heaven will make a difference. You may save her. It may be the difference between life and suicide. So don't lose hope. Keep contact with her. I mean, I think the biggest problem that we see, especially men are thrown away in our society, and they're thrown away like, oh, you don't matter, you kind of donated the sperm, but you're just nothing now. That's not true. That daughter is half of you. So what does that mean, Dad? That means you need to pick up the phone and call her and say, hey, what did you do in school today? Oh, okay. Did you get some new makeup? What's going on with your life? Okay, so you got an attitude. I'll just sit here and listen to you breathe for 5 minutes. I love you, and I think you are important. Contact her. Call her a couple times a week. You know what you can do, Dad? You're sitting there paying your bills. How about write her a note and say, you know what? I remember when you were 2 years old and you puked all over my brand new suit. Share your love with her. People don't do that. They think, oh, my daughter should know I love them. My daughter should know. Don't ever take for granted that you could change everything in her life. That goes for moms, too. I don't think we realize as parents that we truly are the most important role models for our kids. Hi, Bernard. I saw you come in. Thanks so much for joining us. And Barb, too. I'm thinking that if we only took the time to just write our little kids a little sticky note on the window, or, you know what, if she's there for the weekend, tack a little love letter in her bag that she's going to read later at Mom's house when she comes in and say, oh, wow, my dad wrote me a note, and put a little piece of her favorite candy in it, just a little one, because, most girls are freaking out going, I'm going to get fat. So, give her some little crackers, just something that says, I'm thinking of you, I love you, and you are important to me. Because let me tell you something. Girls may emulate their mothers. I don't care what their mothers are, Sadly, their mothers play a huge role. But their fathers, you are going to be the one she chooses to model her husband in life after. So you've got to be the most courageous, killer person in her life that's going to just defend her to the end of time. She needs a hero. So pray how to be her hero. I'm sorry I went off about this, kids, but I think being a parent...
You're on a roll. That's the word you got to use.
Being a parent is so tough these days. I mean, we're juggling all this stupid stuff that's coming at us from the media and everything else. And it's hard. It's not easy for us. We have so many things we've got to fight in this world.
You got you're the prognosticator of questions because I didn't extract any more. I have pre-canned ones,
we've
but
got
that's
we've got another good
live
one.
questions. I mean, are priority.
I know you guys are so great. I love watching you guys talk in the chat room. Thanks, Jerome Swanson. Yes, I know. So the next question up is, this is a good one. Mm-hmm. About the whole aura thing in the Catholic Church. Now, I always assumed that auras had something to do with the Hindu faith. Can you? Mm-hmm. Oh, Athena, thank you so much. Athena just got us some more stamps. Yes, 2 books of stamps at least. Thank you, dear Athena. And sweetheart, Athena, don't you stop praying that prayer when you feel pain, because I'm keeping you in my prayers, okay, Athena? So can you elaborate on that, on the whole aura thing originating from the Hindu faith?
You know what? I think it's like you said when you were talking earlier about auras, is that they have this kind of neopaganism reputation, or what do you call it, the mainstream. It's outside the mainstream Catholic, but it's in the other mainstream. Mm-hmm. And if you watch these old movies where the psychic mediums and stuff in haunted houses and all that, but I don't know of a better word for it. But when we read about the life of Padre Pio and so forth, we know that he could tell when someone had a mortal sin, and you would get up. Is there something else you got to tell me? And something else you got to confess?
Isn't that the truth?
Excuse me, Father? No, how about this boyfriend you had? Like in the movie. See that Padre Pio overdubbed in Italian? It's not a bad overdub, but it's 3 hours, a great movie. But on the auras, it's in terminology. Let's not let the terminology ever scare us. Some things cross over. And the reason why some of the neo-pagan stuff actually is so catching and dangerous and it can redirect you is because there is a little bit of truth in it, and if they take it in the wrong direction, like, you must learn how to harness your ability to see auras. You might see them when you were a kid. Doesn't mean you see them your whole life. Some people reported
it doesn't mean that at all.
Yeah, they saw them when they were a kid, and when they got older, they didn't have that, I don't know, you call it gift or ability anymore, and it wasn't from any kind of weird church group or something like that. They were just regular going to church on Sunday, Catholics and that kind of thing. And that's from a person that I knew personally, once, personally.
Yeah, personally.
So just ignore the dialogue, and sometimes it does share it with the mainstream, such as Demonologist. It's got a bad, because everybody's abused the heck out of it. And in the old days, it's really just a person who investigates the cases, looking for the telltale signs of demonic. So we use the title, even though the church doesn't use it. I think there's only one person out there who actually uses that title within the church, and it's not the church using it, it's him using it and suggested to the bishop, I suppose, for the most part. We got to watch the terminology just as much as we do the short catchphrases that can be very kind of misleading in the least. But it's just the demons see this on a person, and this is known by we'll just say all the top names, that when a demon sees you, he's drawn to the negative, we'll just say negative energy of some sort. And there's energy. There's another word right there. Like I said, with the person with the black aura, they know right who to go to. Padre Pio saw a person coming to kill him, and he saw they had a black aura around him, and the aura is just a silhouette. It's a band of color around the person. And not that Padre Pio's going, let's see, what was blue again? You know what I mean? So, but someone tried to lay it down to colors and all that stuff, and I think that's kind of neo. I don't think any of the saints did that. They just said that they saw different bands of color, and they equated dark with sick. Spiritually, people that were dying had dark auras. Mm-hmm. I hope I'm not filling this in good enough, Eric, because I don't want to get allocated.
I'll fill it in a little bit more, too, for you.
I think that... pretty much what I would have to say about that. It has to do with the terminology, and the word energies is true too, but I kind of hate that. I can feel the energy in the air. The energies, the stage will get rid of all the energies in there and stuff. Well, I mean, the spirit world is not even energies as we know it in the physical realm, so some people argue, don't even use the word energies when you're referring to this at all. We know the Kirlian camera experiment is really a fascinating thing. Kirlian, if you can type it in how to spell it in the chat room, for example.
Yes.
It's some kind of Russian, Czechoslovakian originally. Yes. And when they did experiments, they had a holy man, I guess it was a priest, it was an Orthodox priest, bless holy water, and they saw the light got brighter like 10, 20 times. The aura that it picked up, the camera. Oh, yeah. Then they had a guy in there who just shouted and screamed and says, think of what makes you really mad and then do it. And then they took a picture of him during it, and they took a picture after, and they saw that his silhouette was still there, the silhouette around him, but it dissipated over time. So much for you residual theory people. It doesn't hang there and animate and come back every night. It's just, like a negative energy. Demons see this, and they see opportunity. They go, let's flock around it like mobs so that the next time, there's an opportunity, we're going to see if we can push them even further.
Exactly.
On anger.
Exactly.
Anything to add on that one?
Yeah, and
I
then
think
I've
this is a
got
very
two questions.
expansive subject. So.
I'm going to briefly tie it in here, kids, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking about is the human aura, or the aura based in, the Indian faith, the Hindu faith. Now, let me just tell you, okay, because I have a very extensive background in history with a lot of different occult stuff. And what you're thinking of is the tie between the Sanskrit chakra, which chakra is a flower, okay? And it's like the Fibonacci sequenced perfect flower that rotates. And that comes from the specific Hindu faith of there being a variety of chakras on the body, or flower points that are energy centers of the body, okay? And that's the whole Indian thing. Now, are you assuming that, that this is tied to the Indian faith? Yes, it is. That is a different, shall we say, definition of when we talk about the aura of Christ. The aura of Christ was beautiful and glorious and light, and people just loved being around him. That is totally different, okay? So, that said, we need to get on because we've got two more very important questions. I want to address the Enneagram that was asked earlier, but we also have a really good question that I really want to get to.
Okay.
Because we have, thank you so much for joining us, Jeremy, I don't want to say your name wrong, Lodenberg. He's got a friend, and I think we ought to address this because this happens to a lot of people, and this is a very common theme that we get asked about.
Mm-hmm.
His friend, he's struggling severely. He's been talking to psychiatrists, Ken, but his dreams are about demons, like all the time. And he's hearing their names. He says he's had these dreams for years.
Well, that's pretty much it right there?
Yes.
He just has these kind of tormenting dreams. Nothing else goes on around him?
Well,
I guess it's answering a question of a question.
Yeah, well, he's kind of curious, what could that be? What could that be?
I don't know. When it's that reoccurring, it's not usually just something that's just part of our psyche working something out in detail.
Yes, exactly.
And then you know yourself when it's vivid, it's lucid. And then you have to look around you and see if there's anything going on around you in addition to that, because these things don't linger and just sit there and then do kind of on-deck circle waiting to go bat.
Yes.
I mean, that's what you're looking at most of the time. When they're in your dreams, they start there first. Succubus, incubus start there as well.
Yes,
and then eventually move to waking you up at night, pulling the covers off. But if this is an on-deck circle for a long time, I would have to say, why? Am I missing something? I mean,
I know.
It's still there in my dreams. It hasn't gone away. It hasn't. But I guess the frequency of it makes a difference, too. So it's a question with a question. Probably requires a mini counseling session to get the questions and answer session. Anything that you can think of, Farrah?
Well, I think, Jeremy, just to be very specific, it's hard to address what might be going on with him just from the scant information. Yeah, it might be better if it was emailed, or you can call us, at our 573-990-1333. Call us, and because it's easy for somebody just to spit out, a random supposition. But something like this, it requires much more than a supposition. Is he willing to pray? Is he baptized? I mean, these things factor in, because just because he's having demonic dreams, we don't know exactly what's going on with him. Let me tell you something. We know a lot of people that, from our caseload, they have to have medication because they can't be in right reason. They can't think correctly. They can't, disseminate their day and what's going to happen, because if they don't have their medication, they can't possibly be praying and fighting off whatever else is going on. So for us to give a snap, answer, it might be better if we were able to talk specifically to, what kind of prayers he might need. Maybe he might need to be baptized. We really don't know. So I don't want to just give you just a boxed answer. There is a lot that can be done and that he can be helped with. But two things I wanted to mention before I forget. For the gentleman that asked about his daughter earlier, Roy, bless her forehead the minute she walks in your door with the oil. Bless her every single night and pray over her. It doesn't matter if she hears you or if she says, "Oh, Dad, go away."
I guess he doesn't have custody. Primary custody is not his, right?
I would say not. He's been divorced for 4 years.
And it can bless her room before she comes over.
Yes,
like you're exercising it, and bless the whole house.
Effect. I didn't want to forget to include that. Thank you, Fender Nirvana. We just got another donation, sweetheart. I love that name, Fender Nirvana. That's so cool. Okay, so I've got to get to the Enneagram, and then Colin, I'll get to your question about the possessed person. Okay. We had a question earlier, and I want to address it because this is a very, very popular topic right now. And it's about the Enneagram, and is this a Catholic topic? Because we have a very prolific, very educated, very wise priest that has a center for healing and wellness and meditation, centering prayer. Father Roard, as a matter of fact, is a Franciscan. We're actually using one of his books. I am the new formation director. And he has taken the Enneagram, which was, if you look at it, it was not Christian, it was not Catholic. It was basically, it's been around for thousands of years. And what it does is the Enneagram seeks to define who you are. Now, when we look at holy priests, such as, Father Ripperger, Father Fortea, when we look at priests that try to help us determine our invitational, our faults, so that we can balance them by praying for virtue and practicing virtue, the Enneagram basically takes your base desires or your base attitudes, and it attempts to define who you are in order to help you release a lot of your desires that you're tied into. So, is it Catholic? As far as I know, it is pagan-based from Peru. Can it be Catholic or Christian? According to Father Rohr, it can be understood from a Christian perspective. That doesn't necessarily make it Christian or Catholic. That means that it can be looked at. And that's no different from a dog that's laying dead in the street. Is the dog Christian? Well, probably not, but can it be looked at from a Christian? Yes, the poor dog can be buried. We can say some prayers over it. So, would I recommend people read the Enneagram and say, "Oh, yeah, that's me"? No, I really, really wouldn't. Why? Because in a way, it's similar to astrology, kids. It's like, it's outside of myself. It is not something that I chose to do, something I take responsibility for. Oh, it's in the stars. It's just me. Oh, it's the Enneagram. This is my personality. No, I don't really think that's helpful in order to understand who we are in Christ, who we are in God, who we are and where we need to go. I think it is much better to pray to God and say, "All right, God, what virtue do I need to be praying for?" Why? Because you're going to get an answer. It's not just going to be gone and go away. You will get an answer. And it might take a month, it might take years. You will eventually get an answer. Okay, now I want to get to these other two questions, Kenny. We have Tessie. Tessie wants to ask a question. The other one's really good too. Do vaccinations with aborted body parts carry a curse, Ken?
Oh, wow. We talked about vaccines once, and we know they use aborted baby parts.
Oh,
and they're imposing it on schools that you have to get them done. You can't use the exemption. Some Catholic schools and so forth. And that's a problem. The way it works is that they tell you not to do the blood brothers thing. Don't do that thing where like you're good friends or you're out hunting or whatever. Don't do that. You don't want to mix bloods. Bad enough that people are shacking up with people who aren't their spouse, because that's exchanging blood too, like it or not. And that, yeah, you can be cursed by that. In other words, if
yes.
they have demons, you extracted them, but they're not going to be at full force like they are with a person. Like if you sleep with a witch who actually has step-in possessions. Not exactly, but over time it can be if you keep kindling whatever it suggests to you, and it tries to promote with you, and its temptation, and its very vivid methods of trying to get you to want to do something that'll drag you down spiritually. You know, more or less free will is the big part that it plays on this. This thing on all these cases. But I think I guess that's the way to summarize that to a point. But I guess get to the core thing. I would avoid it entirely because you remember the old movie, and I hate to bring up movies right now, but I'll make it real quick. Obviously, is the guy got a hand sewed on from a murderer, and he doesn't find out until later on. And the hand's got a mind of its own; he wants to kill.
Totally, I know.
I mean, in a way, you're merging, you're joining blood from someone who murdered. The DNA basically and everything comes from a mother who made a choice to kill the baby. It's been murdered.
Yes.
So that crime and that sin and everything is in the blood. And so with the person who got the inoculation as a child, say girl, and then she gets older, she'd be more prone to want to get an abortion or to make the bad choice? I'd say yes.
So true.
So, but don't, I mean, they say, that it's just like anything else, like it is a curse. Oh, no, what do I do? People had grandfathers who was a Freemason, and you do that, and it's done. Mm-hmm. So you can say the proper prayers and do breaking curses prayers and so forth. And it's not going to be, it's still in me. So don't panic or anything like that. It's no different than if you have a grandfather who was a Freemason or something like that curses generational lines.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Anything to add to that, Farrah?
No, I've got two more questions before we got to get out of here. I'm sorry, we're going to go over about another 5 minutes, kids, because I want to get these questions because they're too important not to address. Okay.
Perfect.
Colin, who is all the way over there in Derby, Ireland, he has the one question that I think is really important, Ken, and I really want to address this, but I'm going to let you do it first. If someone is possessed, can a demon hide? Even though the husband in this case that I speak of thinks that it's gone. And this is without the interaction of a priest.
Is it the husband that was possessed because he thinks it's gone?
Yes, this is the husband in the case that I speak of.
I don't know if I can trust him.
Can a demon hide?
Yeah. Well,
can the demon hide? That's the question.
When the priest does it
and there is no interaction with a priest.
Oh, no interaction? Oh, okay. Well, that's the problem. When the priest does it, he can actually, and anybody can, using the sacred to test to see if the spirit is there, an alternate follow-up session. And that's the point of it. It's to make sure that nothing is going to react. They can't stand being in the sight of holy things and that sort, to the point that we can rely on it. We give them a hot foot when you go into haunting and you start waving things around. We tell people, if we try to counsel ghost hunters, because we can't stop them. They're going to still bypass going to the diocese. So we got to try and help
them. We got to try and help them any way we can.
So we say, don't put your St. Benedict medal on the outside and let it hang out.
Exactly. Always hide everything.
Yeah, if you're just there to investigate, don't try to provoke. But see, you don't really have a test for the person unless you do it yourself, and you might find out the hard way. But when they're sleeping, sometimes the dreams, the anxiety, they have a temper before and they don't have any now. I mean, you can look for the signs if you can talk to them and they can tell the person the signs are still there. You can see the anxiety being with the person, knowing them. You can see that other symptoms, because they always tax on you one way or another, bad habits, depression, and that kind of thing. Yep. And you'll notice that as a person living with them, that those are gone, but you'll have to ask and hope they're going to be honest about the rest of it. Like, are you still having those dreams you used to? Are you waking up at 3 a.m.? Well, you can't miss that if you're a spouse. You'll know when they get out of bed, right? Mm-hmm. And most of the time they wake you up or something, getting out of bed and staying awake at 3 hours, and you go and you find the lights on in their office. Anything to add to that? I guess that's kind of a short list.
There are so many cases that we've had. Okay, you want to know if demons can hide. Guess what, kids? We work with exorcists. The demons hide from priests, and the priests have to hammer the hell out of them. Okay? So, if they're not involved with a deliverance minister or an exorcist, not only can the demons hide and pretend that there's nothing going on, a lot of times if a person is either possessed or they're on their way to possession, They're missing blocks of time, and they don't even know if and when something's going on. They just think that maybe they were tired and the day's gone. Time slips through their mind and they can't address it.
Yeah. And it's like the Cole Aubrey thing. It's one of the oldest tests in the book. You put water, holy water in there. It depends on how much they were possessed before. And test it out like that. You know, when you cook or something for them, you put a little holy oil on there, exercise and blessed. It's better. But for the most part, you might be careful that you don't get kind of a paranoia or anything like that. Because it's easy. When you've been through that kind of trauma, you're a little PTSD. So be careful you don't look too hard.
Exactly.
Because if you'll find something no matter what. So I guess that's the best advice to do in short. You can...
Okay, we have one more question, then we got to zip out of here, kids. Once again, the phone number, if you would like to give us a call, and don't worry if you don't get us right away, just call us back or just say, hey, can you call me or send me a text? It's 573, okay, 990-1333. Or if you need prayers right away, like tonight, go to our website, www.stmichael or swordsofstmichael.org, and all the prayers are right there.
And the email
that you
is
need.
help at.
Yes, if you need medals,
if
if you need prayer books, I've got this fabulous step by step. Open your curtains, change your environment. We've got a step by step. If you got somebody that can't figure it out, that wants a little, let's hold your hand. What do I do this week, next week, first 3 months? We've got guidelines, okay? Because where are you going to get this? All right, let me tell you. There's very few churches that have any kind of aftercare for people that have been experiencing vexation or any kind of possession. So we do our best to make sure you've got something in your hand that you can say, oh my gosh, you just experienced this, you just went through an exorcism. Here's a guideline that will help you get through this. This is what you ought to be doing. This is what your life needs to look like. All right, so the last and final question I've got to get to right here.
Okay.
And of course, it just scrolled out as I'm trying to get to it. Okay, hold on. I know. Isn't that just the way it goes? I'm sorry, kids. Okay, here it is. Now, I love this name, Fender Nirvana. The question here is, what do you think, really, seriously, of physical demonic attacks like scratches on the face, bruises, seeing black shadows? How about seeing a red head-shaped thing while you're trying to sleep? There is much more to it, but what do you think about all that?
A red head? I guess I would have to ask what time of the night.
Blob or thing.
Oh, it's a blob, so it's like some
well, you're trying to
Star
sleep,
Trek
so it's got to be in the
effects.
middle of the night. It's got to be in the middle of the night.
Yeah, we assume that.
Tell people how I was shoved out of the closet when I first got here.
By a redhead?
Not a redhead. That was a little demonic little dark head thing we took a picture of in the front. Remember that?
I mean, Tawny, the redhead that was a girlfriend of that guy from Whitesnake. Anyway, but yeah, okay, all seriousness. Yeah, I mean, there's multiple colors. Sometimes people saw something that looked like a light moving around like this, whatever. I'm not going to call it an orb. That's supposed to be 3D spear or anything like that. But it could have been blue, and it doesn't mean just because blue is a more pleasant color than some people perceive red as like Satan or evil. The color itself doesn't really, most of the time, tell you anything.
No.
But the fact is, if you got a disembodied head showing up, Sister Faustina wrote in a diary something I got to actually change in our first book, the Catholic Demonologist Handbook, and that's where she encountered one of the nuns who lived in the convent where she was a nun, appeared as a disembodied head with flames around it. So what do you say? Say that part of the red is actually kind of flaming and kind of floaty or gassy looking around it. I mean, it could indicate that they're in purgatory. So we don't jump the gun on that, because when I saw something when I was very young, came out of my closet, swirled at me as a pixel, and it got closer and closer, got bigger and bigger, and I could see it was an old man in flames around
Well,
his
we're
face.
talking about payback, so I'm going to read to you what happened to Colin, okay? He was praying over the phone with someone, and he gave them blessed objects, and he might have gotten some payback because he was praying prayers over the phone, and he lost his Catholic marriage. I know. I'm so sorry.
Well,
to
you
hear
have to
that,
look
Colin.
at the marriage, because sometimes that person's night, they're not of equal yoke.
No.
And that's another conversation in itself. And then, some people that I knew is treating me like it's some sort of payback. It's like, excuse me, I'm teaching, you the trade. I could tell them straight up, if you're married to someone who's not Catholic and they're actually kind of a free spirit and all that, you should expect that. If they're Catholic, that, and they were always Catholic, that's more of out of ordinary, but the devil won't successfully break them up for long that way. God did not allow it. And if you're doing your protection prayers and all that sort, what will happen is there'll be hardships and misfortunes that aren't recoverable. Cars will wreck and break down. You have to get them fixed. You just can't pray to God and they'll come back. Financial mistakes will happen. The bank will mess up on recording some money and you'll find out you're $1,000-something short. Those kind of things will happen. But when a spouse leaves and you're doing the work and you're doing everything you're supposed to as a Catholic and the work itself, the protection, you're going to not really get anything that will happen in such a way that it'll actually break up your marriage successfully unless that's part of God's plan somehow. In other words, you just basically provoked that spirit in her. She couldn't take it anymore because she, had some attachment of a sort. Is pretty much what I can add to that. She's not of equal yoke, most likely. I don't want to assume anything because we're not on a one-on-one kind of counseling session, interview, or anything like that.
So true.
Hope that kind of gives some shed of light on you. Don't blame yourself on that sort of thing. As long as we're in the state of grace and everything like that, you have to ask yourself, was she? And why did she leave? The questions will all make more sense of it all in general. Okay, I suppose it's time to move.
Yeah, it's time to move on, kids. If we did not get your question, don't worry. We're going to do a part 2 next week, okay? Mm-hmm. So, don't leave just yet, all right? Because we will be back next Sunday. Mm-hmm. And if, for whatever reason, you missed the show, it will be queued in and you can listen to us. Never forget the battle's already been won, kids, okay? We're just here to help you win the fight and win it right. So please don't forget, thank your guardian angel tonight. God bless you all. And if you do need prayers, you know what? My intentions, I'll be praying for you and add mass for you tomorrow, okay, kids? So take care. Say your prayers. God bless you. We'll see you next week. Give us a like. And if you'd like, share our video. Hit the little bell for subscribe. Thank you so much, you guys. God bless. And thank you so much for all the wonderful donations. You guys, you humbled me so much. That is just so amazing.
We put the good use. Next week, same time, same channel. More or less a part 2 of what we're doing tonight continued on, so we can give you another hour and 15 minutes or so. Thank you to Dark Waters for hosting our show, and it's ongoing. It begins now. And thank you for the donation from Mr. Dark Waters there. What did you say?
I know, that's so sweet. And yes, Tony, I agree. May the Virgin most powerful protect us. And guess what? Mary conceived without sin. Pray for us who have recourse to thee. And don't forget, say your guardian angel prayer. They're right there waiting to help you out, kids.
God bless
and if you need to call us, call us. God bless. Good night. Thank you, Colin, for joining us from Ireland. Tell the Ireland soil I miss it so. Good night.
See you next week.
The Real Deal TV show, copyright 2018. A Swords of St. Michael production. Any unauthorized duplication or rebroadcast or retransmission of this broadcast without the express written permission of the Swords of the Saint Network or that of Kenneth and Farrow's Deal is strictly prohibited.